Hello and welcome to the Teach to Learn channel. Right now we're going to be doing the generate random whole numbers within a range basic JavaScript lesson from Free Code Camp. So here goes. Instead of generating a random whole number between 0 and a given number like we did before, we can generate a random whole number that falls within a range of two specific numbers. To do this, we'll define a number min, which represents our minimum value, and a maximum number, max, which represents our maximum value. And here's the formula that we'll use. Take a moment to read it and try to understand what this code is doing. So firstly, we have our math floor function being called, and within it there is the math random function times, open parentheses, our maximum value minus our minimum value plus 1. Then we close the parentheses, we close the math floor function and add our minimum value to it. So we are tasked to create a function called random range that takes a range, my min, so our minimum value, and my max, our maximum, and returns a random whole number that's greater than or equal to my minimum and is less than or equal to my maximum inclusive. So here we have function random range, a function called random range, which has been written for us with the arguments that will be passed on to it, my min and my max. So our minimum value and our maximum value. Our function is currently set to return a value of 0. We need to change that so that it returns a set of numbers within a range. Excuse me, so that it generates whole numbers within a range randomly. So let's just use what we just saw in the example, and I'll explain as we go along. So first, we need to set our function to return the math floor function, which, remember, the math floor, all it does is it rounds down the value submitted to it to its lowest integer. Then within our math floor function, we add our math random function times, open parentheses, our maximum value minus our minimum value plus 1, close parentheses, and close the math floor function. And then we add our minimum value, which in this case, these aren't called max or min, they're called my max, my min, plus my min. So let's just explain this with actual numbers. So let's assume that we have a maximum value of 10 and a minimum value of 2. Let's just see what this function is doing. First, we go into our math floor function, and using order of operations, we can solve what's within it to see what this is doing. So first, we need to work out what's inside the parentheses. So in the parentheses inside of our math floor function, we currently have that our my max is being subtracted from it, our my min, our minimum value, and being added to it 1. Remember that in order of operations, addition and subtraction are done from left to right. So assuming our maximum value is a value of 10 and our minimum value is a value of 2, we subtract 2 from 10 and we get a value of 8. Then we add 1 to it and we get a value of 9. After we work out what's inside of our parentheses, we move on to the multiplication of it. So let's assume 9 times a value thrown out by our math random function. And let's assume that our math random function generated a value of 0.2. Remember, math random always generates a value between 0, including 0, and not quite up to 1. So let's assume this generated a value of 0.2. 0.2 times 9 is 1.8. This is then passed on to our math floor function, which also, remember, always rounds down to the nearest integer. So our value of 1.8 is now turned into a value of 1, and then we simply add to it our min value, our minimum value. So this generated, all of this generated a value of 1 in this example, and then we add the minimum to it, which is 2, and this would generate a value of 3. And as you can see, if we picked a maximum of 10 and a minimum of 2, 3 falls perfectly within that range. So our function is now done. Let's log it into the console. Random range with those two values, a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 10. And as you can see, you'll always get numbers that fall within that range. 7, 8, 7, 7 again, wow, lucky sevens, 10, 8, and so forth, 3, and there you go. That is how you generate random whole numbers within a range in JavaScript. Thank you so much for watching.